In this lesson, we'll learn a little bit about what Ptex is before jumping in and looking at how Mari implements it. Alright, so I have Mari open here, and before we jump into Mari, let's go ahead and talk just a little bit about Ptex. So, maybe this is your first time to hear the word Ptex. Maybe you've heard it, you're quite familiar with what it is, but you're really just curious as to how Mari actually implements this technology. So let's start off a little bit simple and just say that Ptex is quite simply a texture mapping system that is an alternative to traditional UV-based systems. This system was developed by Walt Disney Animation Studios, and let's go ahead and tell you what and just open up a normal traditional UV-based project here inside of Mari. I'm just going to open up our ogre here, and after that opens up, you're going to see here that we've got our ogre, and I'm just going to jump over to the UV tab here, and you'll see here that we have all of these UV patches. Now, these UV patches were cut apart, and this model was unwrapped during the UV portion of the pipeline. So what that means is that some artists came along and took time to cut this model apart and lay out these UVs. Well, the beautiful thing about Ptex is that that step is no longer necessary. We can actually store our textures on each individual face of our model with Ptex rather than on the UVs. Now, this may not seem like a big deal here for our ogre. His UVs aren't that complicated. But if I go ahead and close him out here and jump over and open up our transforming robot, and we go ahead and take a look at the UVs for this particular project, we'll just jump over here and see that the UVs are quite a bit more complicated. Now, to lay out all of these UVs took quite a bit of time. To save that time as part of our texturing process can be really beneficial depending on your pipeline. So now, in addition to the per face texture data, the Ptex files are also going to contain face and edge adjacency data, and they're also going to contain geometry metadata. So let me just go ahead and close this out. And I think I've hinted on why you might want to use Ptex, simply because, again, it's going to eliminate the need to make UVs. You're going to save that time. You're not going to deal with a lot of the complications that come with UVs when it comes to creating UV maps for complex models like the robot we just looked at. There's not going to be any more problems with seams, and no large numbers of individual tiny little texture files to deal with. Now, in this short series of lessons, I'm not going to be showing you how to paint inside of Mari. Painting, in reality, when it comes to Ptex, is going to be no different than painting when it comes to UVs here in Mari. There's going to be very few differences. But what I'm going to show you instead is how we can create and implement Ptex textures with Mari as part of our Ptex pipeline. Now, if you're curious as to a lot of the technical data that is sort of behind Ptex, what all that involves, there's a really great website you can go to and check out that's actually maintained by the people that created Ptex. So it's simply ptex.us, and on this website you can find all the technical information you need regarding Ptex itself. But again, in this course, we're going to go ahead and just be talking about Ptex in terms of Mari. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next lesson where we'll learn how to create our first new Ptex project.